Paspoort, check. Instapkaart, check. Dublin, here we come. Dit is Drop or Dram, de podcast voor whiskyliefhebbers. Van beginner tot kenner. Schenk je favoriete glas in en luister met ons mee.
Wie Dublin zegt normaal Jameson, zegt Guinness, zegt U2. Maar Dublin is zoveel meer. We zitten nu in de wijk The Liberties, een van mijn meest favoriete wijken van Dublin, waar ooit alles mocht en waar ze nu weer het oude erfgoed van Ierland aan het oppakken zijn. En we zitten nu in de oude Powerhouse van Guinness en daar zit een distilleerderij, een beetje een nieuwe distilleerderij, Roe Co. In 2019 begonnen en Dennis, wij waren toen al hier. Het rook hier nog echt naar verf. Het was nog mooi en nieuw. En wij ontmoetten toen Lora, de distillery manager. En zij zei, kom nog maar eens een keer terug. Maar ja, toen kwam corona. Nu zitten we in 2022, 3 jaar ongeveer na dato. Ja, van deze zomer hebben ze voor het eerst ook echt whisky. En wij dachten, dat is een mooi moment om weer eens eventjes terug te gaan naar de distilleerderij.
Ja, nou dat is het zeker, want 3 jaar geleden, toen liepen we hier voorbij en toen zagen we achter een grote boarded up houten planken waar wel de distillery op geschilderd was van wat gebeurt daar spannend zo. Een paar maanden later bleek daar gewoon compleet een nieuwe distillery te zijn. Nou ja, nieuw. Roe Co. Heeft natuurlijk een behoorlijke geschiedenis al in het verleden en was een beroemde naam in de whiskywereld. Maar inmiddels gewoon een zelfbestaande distillery. Nou, daar zijn we natuurlijk binnengeslopen toen. En ja, toen werden we al ontvangen en toen mochten we stiekem in de blendersroom aan de bovenkant kijken. Want je kan hier fantastische rondleidingen krijgen. En we mochten ook toen heel stiekem in de stillhouse zijn. En daar stond Lora. En Lora zit naast ons. En die gaan we natuurlijk eventjes ondervragen over wat ze in de laatste 3 jaar natuurlijk nu gedaan hebben. Lora, thank you for having us in the distillery. And like we said in Dutch, and you didn't understand the thing because I saw your face and people should have seen that face. That was really, really amazing. That was absolutely lovely. We've seen you. We've been around here several times. We're just starting up the distillery with all the new things coming around. Exciting stuff. Old name in whiskey heritage. Coming back to life. We were just starting to get the hang of, the first distilling. And now 3 years later, we're back. Finally, see you live here in Dublin. What have you been up to?
Well, it's been a pretty busy 3 years, and obviously with everything happening in the world as well, which has been equally as challenging. We've had the distillery commissioning and building up our inventory going on in the background. So I think when you were last around here, we were just at the commissioning phase, just about. We'd run our first production. I think we'd had a couple of months and a bit more of the build to get through. But 3 years down the line, we've actually just had our anniversary of our first mash just a couple of weeks back now. So this summer we do have mature whiskey stocks from the distillery, which is enormously exciting. And I guess the journey to this point has been a lot of production, a lot of experimentation, a lot of what I describe as learning to play a musical instrument in figuring out all the nuances and technicalities of the plant across the seasons. So learning how everything runs, optimizes, behaves at every point in the year, which for a partially automated, so mainly manual distillery, is really, really important. So it's actually been enormously exciting. We're delighted with the quality of the spirit that we've been producing. We've been able to optimize every process parameter to deliver that. And that's meant looking in laser detail at every level of the production process, from raw materials intake up to filling to cask. So we understand exactly what we want Roe Co to behave like now and in the future. And testament to an amazing production team who have been working with me over the last 3 years to deliver that. So it's been full of experimentation, full of a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, but it's going to end up in some fantastic and delicious whiskey.
Yeah, because there is a huge difference of drawing up a distillery, making technical plans, but running it and seeing how it actually, it is a living thing. Whiskey is a living thing, and how it comes out with all the things. That is amazing. And we've seen some amazing stuff from your first bottling that you already put on the market. That wasn't, of course, distilled here. But it is a great product with the heritage, like we said before, with sipping neat, but also in great cocktails. You've got a absolutely beautiful blending room where you can learn how to make your perfect serve and perfect cocktails, whatever. And an amazing bar, Jan. We've been sitting in the bar for a while, but we're now at down in the front. En this is an amazing place. Ja, mensen, je moet hier even langskomen. Mocht je een distillery willen bezoeken, Roe Co. De tour is geweldig. Je kan daar cocktails maken. Je wordt meegenomen in Blending Room 106, waar ze helemaal laten zien hoe je de smaken van uiteindelijk bij elkaar kan krijgen en welke experimenten. Maar uiteindelijk is het ook een prachtige distillerij. En ja, al die experimenten, dat is nogal wat, Jan. Ja,
en dat is ook niet voor niets, hè, want de Roe Co distillery staat midden in Dublin. Echt een miljoenenstad. En dan net niet midden in de binnenstad, maar wel behoorlijk midden in de stad. Dus dat betekent dat je hier op een hele andere manier dan in het buitengebied met distilleren moet omgaan. Betekent ook dat je een andere manier met je energie moet omgaan, met je transport, met noem het allemaal maar op. En je ziet hier dus dat de liefde, en dat zie je niet alleen hier, maar ook bij de distillerijen hier verder in de wijk, dat de liefde van de inrichting er echt vanaf druipt. Lora, we are reckoning Roe Co now as a new distillery because it's newly built here, but John Roe, I guess, was one of the big four in distilling history in Dublin. Could you tell us a little bit more about that fragrant history of Roe Co?
Yeah, so George Roe, as you absolutely rightly said, was one of the big four, and I guess a really key character in the history of Irish whiskey at a time when it really was the most popular spirit almost in the world. And I guess we named our distillery after him, not because we want to recreate an old style of whiskey. We have a very contemporary view of Irish whiskey, and we like to think about Irish whiskey as it will be in the future, being a new distillery. But George Roe is an essential part of the past, and we wanted to pay homage, I guess, to what was at one point in the world probably the most important street in brewing and distilling, and I'd like to say is one of them too today. Go back to when George Roe would have had his large distillery on Thomas Street, and it would have spanned really the whole distance from where we are right now all the way down the street. If you look at old images of what Thomas and James Street would have looked like in, say, 1880, there would have been warehouses from here down to the Liffey, all the way down the street. Whiskey would have been what you saw for as far as the eye could see on this side of the street. And then, of course, on the other side of the street, you would have had what was then the world's largest brewery too. So this area of Dublin has been rich in the history of brewing and distilling for hundreds of years.
You didn't understand it, but we were explaining to our listeners that you are so well in redesigning that heritage, because if you go upstairs here, you look out the window, you see the old tower of Roe Distilling, the
Absolutely. St. Patrick's Tower is actually where we took inspiration for our bottle design, the shape of the bottle, and actually the colour of the label, which is a copper verdigris colour, which reflects a lot of the Dublin rooftops that you'd see looking out of the window, and certainly the top of St. Patrick's Tower. And St. Patrick's Tower is the only remaining part of the original Roe distillery on Thomas Street. So this area, and particularly where we're sitting and standing right now, is it's important to us now as a distillery of the future and the past.
And you mentioned the biggest brewery in the world, and you are in the powerhouse of that brewery.
Exactly, yeah.
And you still can see remaining leftovers of that powerhouse time.
Yeah, absolutely. So this building, which is quite spectacular in itself, is the old Guinness power station. It was built in 1947 to a 1930s design, actually, but it was built to power the brewery, but not just the brewery, also the local area. At the time, the brewery was taking a lot in terms of power from the local grid, and it was actually a request of the council that at the time that the power station was built to serve not only the brewery but Dublin 8 too. So this would have been the main source of power for the brewery right up until 1996 when it was decommissioned. And you can see yourself, it's a stunning building. We were able to bring it back to life over the course of a number of years with a lot of support inside the organisation, but from some amazing architects and designers too. And it's been a bit of a labour of love to turn it into a distillery, but to be able to bring it back to life while still preserving some of the original features of the power station was very much part of the brief. And as you walk around, you can see a lot of those and where they've been incorporated into the building. For example, we've got pumps that we've turned into tables. You can gaze through the skylights in the bar and see all the way up into what really is a cathedral dimension, old powerhouse building, bar, redundant plants essentially. So we're in about a third of the space of that building now, and that's where we've put our distillery. But building a distillery in an old building is enormously challenging. The building actually dictates the plan and the layout much more than operational dynamics perhaps would. So we've certainly got a quirky setup. We've got a very long spread from really the front of the still house, which you can see from James Street, stretching all the way back, and certainly from distillery operations in the basement out to the back of the brewery, and we back straight onto the brewery and are very much part of the brewery site.
Yeah, we like quirky. Yes, not only as a building, but it's a very bold move. It was easier to be demolish more or less the power station and build up a new distillery, but no, they took up a very brave project and took it the other way around.
And not only that, they made it partly manually. What's the big difference between a manual and a fully automated distillery for you?
So we chose to utilise mainly manual operations. Now, I say that because we have automated some of the trickier valves in the basement that are less flavour impactful. We did automate some of those, otherwise we'd be running up and down the stairs a bit too much to keep us all feeling kind of okay with it.
Or keeping fit.
Well, there is that too, yeah. I guess we wanted to be able to open the doors to the entire whiskey making process, and the best way to do that was by retaining all of the manual controls in the still house, because it allows people to see exactly what we're doing. And you've seen yourselves, you can come in, you can walk up onto a bridge, a glass-bottomed, glass-sided bridge in the middle of our still house and watch us at work. And we've retained all the manual valves on the spirit safe. All of our cuts in the spirit fractions are controlled by our nose and by our hands, effectively, all using glass instruments. And likewise with steam control, with managing fermentations, our principal processing, so to speak, is all manual. Now where that gets interesting is where we've injected really contemporary technology because of our location and in the middle of a city. Ultimately, we're an urban distillery, so we've utilised a lot of very contemporary technology to manage things like our water consumption for sustainability purposes, and to ensure that all of the thermal salvage from process gets retained and reused. So we actually have a very sustainable distillery. That has given us some really interesting process control in itself. But we're primarily manual, and that really is because that's the way that we believe we can showcase what Roe Co is at its best.
I think there's another way to showcase what Roe Co is all about. We have 3 glasses in front of us. Perhaps it's time to taste something, Dennis.
Ja, very, very important. De 3 glazen, want Roe Co kennen de mensen misschien een klein beetje van de prachtige fles. En Lora zei het al, de fles is gebaseerd op de St. Patrick's Tower die hier vlak naast staat, 20, 30 meter daarnaast, met de kleur. Ook eens een keer draai de fles om. Zorg wel dat de dop erop zit. Want als je de fles ondersteboven draait, dan zit de peer daarin. En de perenboom, dat is degene die daar nog staat. Dus de peer staat als symbool ook wel daarvoor. Maar dat is de Roe Co Blended Irish Whisky. En hij is super vol van smaak. Hij is zo fijn. Maar ja, that's what your standard Irish blended whiskies, but you put 3 glasses in front of us. We haven't got a clue what we've got, so we're very, very excited. Take us through.
Sure. I poured these 2 glasses in front of you here in the pair, really to showcase one of our most recent exciting projects. And I say exciting because we've had this project running for the past 3 years with a great Irish business based down in Cork. They're called Killahora Orchards, and they make incredible drinks themselves. And all of us were fans. We really wanted to work with Killahora on a whiskey. So we gave them some of our old Roe Co casks from a whiskey disgorge. They used them for some of their own products, and then we used those casks consequently to finish some of our whiskey. And what we've ended up with is something pretty unique and totally delicious. So the whiskey glass you have in front of you is the Roe Co Killahora collaboration.
Yes.
Oeh, die appeltjes.
And straight up you get this gorgeous, it's a sort of creamy pastry-led tart tatin.
Tart tatin, yeah.
Yeah, you told apples. He
Whiskey
said,
crossed with apples, right? So we absolutely love a product called Pomo that Killahora made, and the casks that we've used to finish this whiskey had previously contained not only Roe Co whiskey, but had then been used to finish some of Killahora's Pomo, and we then took them back to finish the whiskey.
Okay.
So I love this.
Just to make it complex, you go one way, the other way, no, back again, back again.
Yeah. Look, it's been a long running, and these projects take time, right? The same with all great whiskey. But I think what we've ended up with is something really special, and it's testament to the amazing stuff that Killahora do. They work with a sustainably led orchard in Cork. It's a beautiful place if you get a chance to visit it, run by people that are absolutely passionate about what they do, and great partners for what we want to do at Roe Co too, really prioritising beautifully made products at the forefront of everything that they do. And whiskey-wise, it's a match made in heaven for me. Again, those sort of buttery pastry notes, which when you go in for your first sip, you can really feel that on the palate. It's got a gorgeous creaminess to it.
Yeah, the mouthfeel is absolutely gorgeous. It's very soft and smooth and fulfilling.
And look at Laura's smile when she's talking about it. But
she's constantly smiling.
She's smiling, and the smile is getting bigger and bigger. And as soon as she takes a sips, wow, man.
Yeah.
Then it's well.
We thought it was the podcasters that did do that, but with the first sip,
we're just an ugly blokes. But but the sips is doing. Now she's laughing at. But we'll be talking some other quirky stuff, because when we see the love of the whiskey she put in there, and this, that is amazing. But she's also a great lover of good music, and we think good music and whiskey go very well together. So we're sometimes we have a playlist together. So we want to know what kind of music you would put together with this. That should be nice.
Wow, that's a really great question. I mean, look, good music and good whiskey, as you say, Dennis, like they go hand in hand, right? So I think if I started choosing records to go with this whiskey, you'd probably get a different answer from me every day according to which vinyl I'd pulled out of my shelf. But look, I think
we can have a large playlist. Don't worry.
I think I'd go for some of my my Irish favourites. So I'm really into an Irish artist called Gemma Dunleavy, who was actually in the distillery last week. Don't tell anyone. So I would cut Gemma today. But there's so much great new music in Ireland right now that I would struggle to pick a single record that I would choose at any particular moment. You'll have to keep coming back, and I'll keep feeding you new vinyl releases.
Yeah, that's an invite for coming back. That's always good. That's always good to hear. But
that's okay.
This is.
I'm thinking singer-songwriter stuff. So Jeff Buckley.
You're a Jeff Buckley fan. It's very good.
Yeah, I like some of his records, but also if you go Irish, the older Luka Bloom records.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. What was it called again? The motorcycle.
Motorcycle Emptiness.
No, yeah, that's another
That's
record.
the Manics.
Yeah.
But his record about bikes.
Yeah.
The acoustic motorbike.
Yeah, I'm no good. I'm no good with music. I'm just a huge U2 fan, and we've got everything about them. So, but I see blinding lights straight for me. Just closing my eyes.
No, this is definitely not U2 whiskey. Sorry, Dennis.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are plenty of good other bands, but it's also party whiskey. I see the Pokes, Fiesta.
I love it that we're having an argument about which record is more appropriate now. This is great, and all such different choices as well. That's exactly it, isn't it? Whiskey is so inherently personal, like choices in
that's
music.
what this whiskey does. It drives a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what whiskey should do. It should always drive a conversation, and it should be fun. And look, I think this is beautiful. I'm really proud of it. It's been nothing but a privilege to work with such passionate people at Killahora. So we're very lucky to have it out. It's very, very limited. In fact, I don't think there's actually much of it left now at all. We've sold most of it. It was available here and pretty much nowhere else. But these are the kind of collaborations that we're really interested in running here, and I guess exploring again where those flavour boundaries are, and creating conversation starters, but making sure that we're creating great Irish whiskey at the heart and soul of it, which is what this is all about.
And that's why I think, and I said it before, Irish whiskey is the most exciting category in whiskey at the moment.
Absolutely.
With the collaborations, with different wood types, with the experimentations that's going on there, the flavor compounds, the very bold moves of putting flavors together that you would never think of that would go together. And that is so exciting. I love my regular stuff and my Scottish whiskies and the classics, the true classics. They're classics because they're great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be classics. But the new stuff, wow, exciting stuff. But and you put a very fancy glass next to it
because they didn't change so much over the years, and that's the thing about what's happening here. it's constantly changing. It's not even starting not to change.
But we have a very fancy glass next to it, and I guess it's got something to do with the whiskey.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, the other half of the process. So this is a little glass of the Kilahura Pomo. So you can see a clear relationship between the two.
So this is the Pomo itself?
Yeah, this is the Pomo itself. So this spent time in RX whiskey casks.
Okay.
And it's gorgeous. Again, very traditional aperitif with a history in France.
And just for our listeners, the Pomo, is it a liquor or is it a...
Yeah, it's an aperitif. It's made with a combination of apple brandy and apple juice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been finished in Roe Co.
Okay.
Whiskey barrels. It's beautiful anyway. I mean, this is just a truly delicious product, and it's a staple of my cupboard at home. Put it that way.
And a very dangerous drink as well, because it's, oh man, the apple juice and the apple brandy go hand in hand. But you think of drinking it like apple juice, which is, but it is, and you can really taste hints of the whiskey in there. It's got that spicy notes that really.
Yeah, I think again the American oak is, and you can nose it almost straight away. You've got that wood spice, but you've also got that, those delicate coconut notes too. The really oak driven elements are on the nose and on the palate with that delicate spice. Again, that's the casks playing a role. That's the refill element doing its role. And again, perfect for then using again for a finishing cask. So no, these two are, you can get the relationship between them, but I think the Irish whiskey is front and centre here, and that's what we're always trying to do when we work with these types of casks, is create that balance so that the casks are contributing to the inherent whiskiness of the Irish whiskey. All of those elements that you'd associate with Irish whiskey are at the forefront, and what we're trying to do when we use these types of finishing casks is show them off, is to highlight them, is to give them a new frame, but make sure that they're absolutely central to the experience in the glass. So it's Irish whiskey first, and we're using the casks to highlight and accentuate that.
It's like adding a color to your paintbrush.
Absolutely.
Wat Laura net zei was, we hebben dus een proces geproefd. Aan de ene kant Roe Co die gerijpt heeft op pommelvaten. Dat proef je in die whisky, proef je dat echt een beetje terug. Hè. Die appelinvloeden, die geeft die whisky een hele mooie ronde smaak. Een echte conversation dram. En we zitten nu die pommo zelf te proeven. Een aperitief gemaakt op basis van appel en brandy. Heel licht bittertje, maar veel appels ook erin. Aangename likeurachtige drank eigenlijk. Die dan ook weer heeft gerijpt op die Roe Co vaten. Wat hem net weer iets meer specerijachtige tonen meegeeft. En een klein beetje die vanille van die vaten. Beide geproefd hebben. Daar ben ik wel een fan van de Roe Co
ik vind het ook wel heel bijzonder, omdat we hadden de spirit als eerste geproefd, de whisky. En ze vertelde al hoe ze de collaboratie zijn aangegaan. En dan proeven we het product wat daar vandaan komt.
Ja.
En dan proef ik hem nog een keer terug. En dan komt het nog meer naar boven. En dan komt hij zo naar boven. Het is gewoon bijna jammer dat dit alleen maar op de distillery te krijgen is en bijna niet ergens anders te krijgen. Maar wees gerust mensen, dit is een van de experimenten die ze hier maken. En ze zijn continu bezig en er komen zeker andere collaboraties. Maar
Dennis tells us it's almost a shame that our listeners who are now mouth-watering listening to us can't ever taste this because it's almost sold out and only available here. But it's one of the many experiences you are doing.
Yeah, and look, this is, I guess, the most recent of a long line of experimental new releases that have been available primarily here at the distillery over the last 18 months, 2 years. We've worked with a load of different types of wood. Our collaboration with the Open Gate Brewery immediately over the road, they're one of our closest neighbours. We worked with them last year too to develop some bespoke beers. I guess that our master blender worked very closely with Peter and his team there to optimise for use for us to finish a whiskey. So we've worked with them too. We released a Citra IPA finish, which worked so well, and we've actually just sold out of it. Otherwise, I would be pouring it for you now. But that whiskey was, what it did to the Irish whiskey profile and the Roe profile was really fascinating in terms of really dialing up some of those fruity notes and dialing up a real grapefruit note. Beautiful whiskey. So we're working a lot with our neighbours, I guess, a whole bunch of collaborators, including the likes of Kilhora, and then laying down as many experiments as we can, some of which I can't talk to you about, but are really exciting. And really exploring.
Which one you couldn't talk about?
Just use the mood. Yeah, we
put it this way: we've got something really delicious coming out a little bit later on in the year, and that one's going to be really worth looking out for. I think it's one of my favourites so far. I won't tell
Look
you
at her
too
face
much
again.
about it.
Look at her face again.
So a little deduction. You talked beer, and we saw a little smile. You talked pomo, we saw a big smile. So it's something creamy and sweet.
I couldn't possibly say, but what I will say is, look, keep watching this space at the end of the year, or better still, come in and see us, because we do have some of these available only at the distillery. So it's always worth popping in if you're in the neighbourhood. Come and have a chat, talk whiskey with us for a wee bit, and we'll show you what we have.
Ja, het is sowieso echt de moeite waard op deze distillery. Die mag je niet vergeten. Want een fantastische bar, een prachtig gebouw. Mooie gift shop. Je wordt heel hebberig trouwens hier, Jan. Ja. Ik zit inmiddels om me heen te kijken. En je kan hier je eigen kaaspotteling. Hier achter mij staat kaasnummer 152880 Antwerpen Stout. Die kan je gewoon hier vullen. Dat is gewoon klaar. Er staan hier prachtige mokken, t-shirts, truien uiteraard. Hele mooie flessen. Maar wij zijn nog niet klaar, want we hebben natuurlijk net eventjes gedaan. En ze hebben een fantastische bar hierachter. Hè?
Ja, weet je, het zal nog lang onrustig blijven in Dublin. One last question, Laura. Of two last questions. The first one is this summer, the first whiskey that's distilled here. What are we to expect and what's next?
So we haven't got any immediate plans for the first whiskey. We may or may not have some pretty exciting plans for it. Not this year, but sometime in the future. Again, that's probably one of the projects that I can't talk too much about. But look, the whiskey is in fantastic shape. Delighted with the quality again, and we've really been able to optimize how we want it to behave in a range of different casks. So loads of exciting things happening there, but again, that's one of the areas you'll have to watch this space. But it will of course be coming out sometime.
Dennis, I see some problems coming ahead of us. Laura already told us to pop in anytime you are here, and she told our listeners. But I saw some houses to let here, so I think we have to go talk to some solicitors or something.
We'll get some holiday lets out there, and my next two airline tickets are booked already. So I'll be here plenty of time.
And we really tried to get out some more information about experiments or what is really going on, but you are not telling us anything. So then the last question is, we have one glass left.
Yeah, so look, I poured this one for you because I know that you wanted to try this one the last time you were here and you weren't able to, and this is our curators, 0.1 expression. So we actually brought this one out to, I guess, celebrate the first mash at the distillery, which was 3 years ago, and the opening of the visitor experience to the public. This is, I guess, it's one of my favourite releases. It's unusual in that, I guess, we changed the focus of the blend very much towards the malt component. And what you've got here is something that is made, blended up of, I guess, an even split between malt whiskey that's been aged solely in refill ex-bourbon casks. And again, you get those slightly spicy drivers from those refill casks that adds that textural element on the palate, as well as the expected spice you get from refill oak. The other 50% of the malt split is malt whiskey that spent its entire life in port pipes. So again, this is, I guess it's a precursor to the cask strength release from 2020, in that we knew we had some outstanding, fully port matured malt whiskey in our inventory. Really lucky. We had an incredible inventory of whiskies from all over Ireland that we were able to work with. These casks were part of that. They're absolutely gorgeous. At the time that they were bottled here, they were sort of 10, 11 years old. You can nose it for yourself. You get all of those really summer fruit, rich fruity notes, but a kind of jamminess as well. And when you put those together with the refill malt, you get almost like a sort of cacao forest fruit sandwich of flavour. The final element actually was a very small amount of first fill ex-American bourbon, grain whiskey, but we only added a very small fraction in, so it's actually 3% inclusion, and that's really for some of the lovely textural, creamy elements that grain whiskey can lend to a blend, and really for a bit of cohesion. And I love working like this with whiskey, because every whiskey has its own unique properties that make putting things together like this a little bit like perfumery. And sometimes they do very surprising things when you add them together. And I guess this is a bit of a celebration of what things can do in small inclusions as well as large inclusions. So this is one of my favourite expressions. And again, if you sip it, it's still got all the approachability that the 106 blend does. It's just got a different focus. So we've shifted the focus from the sort of vanilla, fudge, creamy notes and the sort of the orchard fruit driven elements that you'd associate with the Roe blends, and we've moved that sideways slightly and given the focus to the spiciness, the richer summer fruit, and these incredible port casks that ultimately led us to release a whole load on their own as the 2020 cask strength, because they were so outstanding. So we're lucky. We have inventory to work with. We have these options available to us, and it's just great to be able to bring this sort of fantastic whiskey to consumers at this sort of price point too.
And with these last words, we have to conclude this episode, Dennis.
Ja, tijdens de passie waar ze het mee vertelt en alles uitlegt. I finished my drink already. Dat was, het is fantastisch lekker. En ik ben blij dat we hier 3 jaar geleden langs liepen. En toen keken we een beetje tussen de gaatjes van het hout om te kijken wat nieuwsgierig. Wat gebeurt daar? Daarna mochten we naar binnen komen. En toen hebben we Lora omgekocht met chocoladeletters en stroopwafels. We bought you chocolate letters and stroopwafels just to give you a bribe to get in here. Yeah. It worked. And
so one last question. What's the new experiments about? No.
What should we bring you next time?
Bring yourselves a playlist. And next time we will have less arguments over the right sort of playlist. You can bring the playlist that you like, and I'll be interested to hear your record collection.
Wij gaan werken aan een playlist.
Zeker.
En wij drinken nog een aantal mooie drankjes. Ik zie er hier bij de bar ook nog wel even prachtige zaken staan. Inmiddels is het keihard weer beginnen te regenen. Je zou het bijna niet anders verwachten.
4 seasons in one day hier. Hè?
Vandaar dat je ook op de achtergrond de koffiemachine hoorde ratelen. Want met dit weer een Irish koffie is ook niks mis mee. Het bleef nog lang onrustig, Jan.
Lora, thank you very much. And to all our listeners, tot de volgende keer. En dag.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's been a delight. Thanks, guys, and have a great weekend.
We will. Thank you very much. Dit was Drop or Dram. Vergeet niet om je te abonneren op onze podcast of kijk op onze website www.dropordram.nl. Tot de volgende keer.